Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest webcast in Caring.com's Digital Marketing Academy. Our session today is about using events with professional referral sources to build your senior care business. I'm Denise Grob, a marketing director here at Caring.com, and we have a very special guest presenter, Mr. Steve Weiss of Hurricane Marketing Enterprises.
Hello there. How are you?
Great. Thank you, Steve, for saying hello. We'll go into more detail about Steve in just a moment, but I want to take care of a few housekeeping items before we get started. This is a one-way webcast where only the presenters speak. You can ask questions, though, in the upper right of your screen at any time during the session, and we'll also have a Q&A at the end of the presentation. No question will go unanswered, even if we have to follow up afterward with you. And we get this question a lot. Will this presentation be available afterward? The answer is yes. We will share the presentation materials with you. In fact, you'll be the first to receive them before they get archived in our webinar archive on our blog. While this webinar is free of charge, you do have to listen to this brief commercial for Caring.com as your price of admission. We have 3 million visitors using our site's senior care resources every month. These are families and older adults who are turning to us for caregiving information, referral, and support. They also come to us for reviews about senior care providers, both senior living communities and in-home care agencies. In fact, we are the largest senior care reviews site with about 150,000 consumer reviews, and thousands are added every month. We also have thousands of original articles across all elder care topics, and we host dozens of online support groups for family caregivers that are particularly popular. And we are owned by Bankrate, and we're part of a powerful network of websites dedicated to supporting people in making complex financial decisions. We are really lucky to have the highly successful and well-regarded Steve the Hurricane Weiss of Hurricane Marketing Enterprises. Steve, as you'll soon hear, is a dynamic and entertaining public speaker. He is known for his expert knowledge in all things sales and marketing. And from a very young age, he's been driven to succeed and has excelled across vastly different industries. He founded his current company, Hurricane Marketing Enterprises, in 2012 with the goal to help other business owners across the country. In a few short years, he grew it to a 7-figure business, and it has been booming ever since. He has sold out boot camps and seminars all over the country for years, and perhaps some of you have even been to some of those and know how fabulous they are. And then with more than a decade of knowledge and a knack for breaking it down and easy to follow steps, he is known as the marketing guru. He has a passion to lead business owners on the path to find people in need of their services and convert those prospects into clients. His company's mission statement is to help business owners increase their census revenue and profits. And he'll touch on some ways you can do that today. Through his programs and presentations, he has guided thousands of individuals to grow their organizations, and he continues to help them blow away the competition. With his dedication and hard work, Steve has developed a foolproof program which enables startup companies to quickly get ahead of the competition while helping existing businesses experience an explosive transformation. Many of his clients double and even triple their annual revenue in as little as 6 months. So without further ado, let me go ahead and turn it over to Steve. He has a lot of information to cover with you, and I don't want to take up too much more time with the intro. So Steve, I've gone ahead and given you controls. Do you have those now?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much, Denise. I really appreciate it, and what an honor to be here, everyone. And I truly, truly love what I do. And just last night, I was actually speaking to a young business owner, and I say a young business owner, not necessarily young in age, but young in business. And she was just talking about some of the things that she's doing, like she checks her website every day to see the website traffic, and she's doing all these things, and talk about what an appreciation, what an affinity that I have for her, that I have for all my fellow entrepreneurs, because I remember when I first started this business, I remember when I started other businesses, and I remember doing all of those same things and watching your business grow. It's your dream, it's your baby, it's your passion. And so, you know, I truly, truly love each and every one of you out there. You're entrepreneurs. Remember, I too am an entrepreneur, and I like to speak firsthand with everything because that just makes such a world of difference. So what an honor to be here. And again, thank you so much, Caring.com, for letting me be here. Thank you, Denise, for putting this together. And thank you, everyone, for being on this webinar today. So with that being said, this webinar right over here, how to use events to generate leads, is something that I've written and I've tweaked and I've perfected and I've tweaked so many times over, because there's so many different philosophies, there's so many different mindsets out there, there's so many different thought processes when it comes to generating business from events. And there's so many different type of events that exist that it can be overwhelming. And so as a result, there's some people out there that feel it's just a waste of time to go because I don't get any business from it. And really the truth of the matter is, it couldn't be anything but that. Like, it truly is one of the best ways to generate leads, to generate referrals, to generate new customers, to grow your censuses, to grow your revenue, and to grow your profits, which is our mission. But you have to know how to do it. You have to know which ones to go to. You have to understand the etiquette. You have to understand all of these incredible things, which you see right here on the screen. As I go back, these are things that I'm actually going to discuss with you. You have to know what to do and manage your expectations when you go to these events to understand just where, when, and how to get the business. And I was actually talking to somebody yesterday who was talking about two different type of marketing individuals. There's your hunter and there's your gatherer. And for this kind of marketing, I like to say that you have to be a hunter mindset with it. And if you think anything about hunting, and I'm not talking about hunting like with a gun or a bow and arrow, but I'm talking about like a hunter, like you are a cat, like you're a mountain lion or you're a panther or something of that nature, and you're sitting there stalking your prey. You can't move. You can't wait. You can't move until it's that right opportune time to jump, and that's when you make the kill. If you move too soon, you're going to frighten off your prey, and it's going to run away, and then you're going to be hungry for the night, and it may take you all day, all week to find your next kill. And so the same mindset has to be applied here. We have to be very careful with how we go to these events, not to scare people away, because we've all been to events where we have those individuals who are all about, if you need help, I'm here, I'm helping you, here's my prices, if you know anybody who needs me, and they're so pushy. It's like if you were a deer or a gazelle, and the lion is right in plain sight, there is no way I'm standing near this person, you can't wait to get away from that person. We do not want to be that person. We totally want to make sure that we are very strategic, calculated, and we are truly hunters as we do this. So I'm going to go through all of these things, and I'm going to speed up as I go through, because there's a lot of stuff here, as you can see. You know, different type of events, is it worth it? What's the etiquette that we have to do when we go to the events? How do you qualify the individuals that we're speaking to at these events? If you want to do your own events, how do you go about doing your own event? What's involved? Then I'm going to talk about some case studies of people all across the country, including myself when I used to do this back in the day, of what it's like when you're doing your own event or you're attending other events and so on and so forth. So let's just jump right in. First part of it is this whole is it worth it mindset. Like when you think about everything that happens, is it truly worth the time to go to the networking events and the community events and the health fairs and all the other things that exist out there? The short answer is yes, but you have to be careful with your time. I'm just going to bring up all the different bullets here on this particular slide. But the answer is yes, you do have to go to them. You do have to understand that this is a vital part of our marketing effort. This is a vital way to make connections, to make contacts, to get referral partners who can refer me dozens of clients over the next 6 months to a year, or go and potentially meet potential prospects at a direct-to-consumer type event like a health fair or something of that nature. So it is worth it, but you have to be selective. So if there was a takeaway, I know we're going to talk about some takeaways at the very end, but you have to be selective, because in some marketplaces, I know here in the Northeast where I live, there's 4 to 10 to 20 events every single week. I cannot get to that many events, nor should I go to that many events. So when it comes down to how often, I recommend, this is something I recommend to all of my clients, I recommend to every person that I'm training, that you make sure you get to one networking type event every week, you get to one community type event, and I'll talk about what the differences are in a minute, but you get to one community event every single week, and then you do some kind of a give back, sponsoring activity, some kind of event that you're hosting and participating in once a week. So that's 3 times a week. Assume about a 3-hour maximum window. This is about 9 hours time out of your 40-hour Monday through Friday work schedule, which, you know, right? What the heck is that? 40 hours a week? I would love to work 40 hours a week as a business owner. We don't do that. We work like 80, 90 hours a week. I understand. So when you put it in that perspective, 9 hours really is not that much time. When the return is, it's a great way to get business. You can get 50% or more of your business just from these activities on a regular, consistent basis, and it doesn't cost you a dime financially. It costs you your time, but it's obviously worth it. That's why we have to do them. Now, the expectations, the biggest thing that I can say is when people go to network marketing, when people go to community events and all the different type of events I'll get to in a second, people have this mindset of, well, I don't get any business from going to the events. And your answer is yes. That is correct. You don't get business from the event. The business comes from the follow-up after the event. Even if you're going to a direct consumer event and you talk to somebody who's a prospective client, you're not going to sign that person up to move into your community. You're not going to sign that person up to get your home-based services right then and there. You're going to schedule an appointment to do it later on from that event. So you don't get the business right there at the event. It comes with what you do after the event. That's where the business is gained. So your goal, because we're talking about how there's a million different reasons and why, and you can get all these just spend all this time doing events. Your goal is to make sure that you be selective with the ones you go to. Find out the ones that are going to give you, for your specific slice of healthcare, the biggest return on the investment of your time. And so that's what brings me to the next slide and the different types of events. And you're going to see photos of me with people that I've met at networking events which helped me grow business. So in this picture right over here, I'm a New York Giants fan. That's my best friend, Larry. He's the New York Giants fan. I just brought him with me. Kate is a Jets fan. She was my director of operations. But then the lady in the chair, Mary Beth, she actually was the marketing admissions coordinator at a skilled nursing facility that referred me a ton of business. And I ended up meeting Mary Beth through networking at a networking event way, way, way back in the day, more than 10 years ago in 2005. We became buddies, and that led to a relationship that helped me get into her building. And that one building referred me millions of dollars in private pay revenue from the clients and patients that they sent my way. But how did I meet her? At an event. This is a great example of why we go to events on a regular, consistent basis. So the first type of event you want to go to is your straight networking event. Excuse me. This is an excellent event. This is one of the ones that you want to write down as a star next to it. You want to find networking events. Networking events, the whole purpose of going to a networking event is to make connections and contacts. So you want to go to networking events, yes. Now the next type is one that I am not a big fan of, and these are the pay-per-meeting networking events, because it's a different type of networking event. This is your BNI groups. This is your LaTip, Network Plus. There's a whole bunch of other ones out there, and you can go to these. And in some markets, in some area, yes, you can get a return. But when there's so many other type of events out there, to pay to go to an event, I'm not a big fan of. And the BNI in particular, and I know some people on this call, I hope the BNI Association isn't on here because I'm not knocking you guys. I do like you, and you guys do some great stuff. But for what we do, the BNI group and some of the other groups that I find, they're too rigid with their expectations, meaning you have to go every single week to your BNI group when you sign up. And so besides the fact that there's a cost, and it's usually in the $500 a year range, you also have to commit to going every single week, where you have to attend at least 40 meetings a year, something of that nature. And so that's a big time commitment to go to the same meetings, see the same folks over and over again. And yes, you do get business from it, but for the amount of commitment, the return is not worth it at the end of the day. And that's what I find just in general. And again, there's always exceptions to the rule, but I find in most instances that is not the way to go. And so that's why I say avoid the pay-per-meeting networking events. Now, the other ones that I do want to say is a 50-50 are your chamber events. You have to do your homework, though. Every chamber is not necessarily the right chamber for us. So before you decide to join a chamber, you want to find out who are the other businesses that are part of this chamber. And I'll give you an example. When I owned my business, Care Choice, back in the day, Brian was the founder of it. I was the vice president. And so we did not belong to the Middlesex County Chamber, which is where our main office in Monroe, New Jersey was. The reason why is because there were no healthcare entities in that chamber, and there was very little possible return on investment for us. And so we're like, you know what, this isn't worth it. When we opened up our second location in Howell, the Howell Chamber actually had, as one of the major contributors and major active members of the Howell Chamber, was Central State Medical Center, which is one of the largest hospitals in the area, and every person at the hospital fed, meaning the skilled nursing facilities, the independent living, the CCRCs, the home health, the hospices, everybody that hospital fed was all part of this chamber. So that made it extremely worth my time going to, because if I go to a chamber event, all the people that I'm trying to get connections and contacts and business from all attend this chamber's events on a regular, consistent basis. I even have a client down in Boca Raton, Florida, and it's the same situation with them. Their chamber, the hospital, is one of the major partners in it, so they joined it and they got connections to the C-suite executives at the hospital, where no one else can ever find or meet these people except for through the chamber. So if you decide to join your chamber and go to chamber events, they can be great, but do your homework first. Again, the whole theme here at this first type is be selective with your time. So do your homework, determine who's part of the chamber, and then decide to move forward if you find there are a lot of potential referral partners at the chamber. The other type of events that I like are the after-hour ones. Now, after-hour events, I'm a big fan of them. You don't have to go to them every single week, but maybe once a month. And I understand some of us, at the end of the day, we're tired. We have young kids. We have spouses. We just want to go home, and I get it. But I find so many times when you go to an after-hours event, the people who go are truly looking to make connections and contacts. They tend to be a little bit more laid back. A lot of times they serve alcohol. And by the way, it's not in the etiquette. I haven't got the etiquette yet. But if you ever go to an event that serves alcohol, feel free to have a drink or two, okay? You're an adult. You have to know your limits, be responsible, be respectful. But I want you to write down and forever remember, if I ever go to an after-hours event and they're serving alcohol, the 2-drink maximum, okay? 2-drink maximum. Besides the fact that many of us have to drive home afterwards, you do not want to be that guy or that gal who goes to one of these events, gets sloshed, and everybody now knows you as the alcoholic of the industry. That is a way to destroy your reputation. So you can go. If you don't want to drink, that's fine. You do not have to. But if you want to have a drink, be a responsible adult, 2-drink maximum, and have fun. Now, I love the after-hour events, again, because, like I said, people are rolling up their sleeves. They're engaging in conversation, and it's a great way. It's almost like a happy hour setting to make the connections and the contacts. I'll talk about the case study in a minute at an after-hours event later on when I was in Orlando many, many years ago. But again, after-hour events are good ones. Obviously, being in healthcare, you want to try and find the industry-specific events, because those are the ones that we're trying to get to. Those are the ones that have the connections and the contacts, the people that we want to see, the businesses that we want to have a relationship with that can lead to direct professional referrals of patients who need our services, who need our level of care, whatever it is, whether it's a community or home-based service. That is what the industry-specific ones are all about. Now, some examples of industry-specific ones would be like CEU events. I love CEU events. That's also a community event. When you think about it, who goes to a CEU event? A social worker, a therapist, a nurse, or a doctor, somebody who needs continuing education. So when you go to those events, often at times, you might be the only person who's not one of those professions. You learn something because it's an information session, so you learn something you didn't know, but also you're probably the only person in the room who is not one of those individuals, those professionals, and you get a chance to be alone with a bunch of social workers, alone with a bunch of nurses or doctors or people who can refer you clients. And so that's why I love the industry-specific community type events of that nature. And then, again, be smart with your time. So if you're taking nothing away from this, it's the one thing I want you to always remember, be selective where you go. Because as you see right here, I just listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 or 7 different type of events. You can make it a full-time job going to just events, and you're not going to get any business done. So be selective, choose the ones that are best for you, and then move forward. Now, once we know which ones we're going to go to, how do we act? Like, what do we have to do at these events to make sure that we're getting the referrals that we're after, and we are respectful to the people at the event? Now, let me just pull this whole thing up real quick. Good. So your house rules. Every time you go to an event, and it sounds crazy, but I see it all the time. If you're at an event, there really is no reason you should be answering your telephone unless it's an emergency. So do yourself a favor. Before you go in, put your phone on vibrate. Don't be that person whose cell phone goes off in the middle of the event or when there's somebody speaking, because that's rude, that's inconsiderate, and the other people who attend the event will take note of it, especially if it's something that happens to the same person over and over again. That will give you a bad reputation. So always make sure you remember that. Now also find out in advance if there is a meal or something served. Now I know a lot of us are trying to watch our weight and all that other good stuff. I know I don't really eat bread because I'm always trying to watch my weight, but when you go to an event, if they're going to serve a meal, be polite. Eat the food or try the food or just have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Have a glass of water or something, and have a cup of coffee. Whatever it is, do that. These are all like the little house rules that go in there. Also, at the very end, most of the events that are done, like I know there's a lot of communities here, a lot of them are done at communities. They're done at assisted living communities. They're done at skilled nursing facilities. They're done at hospitals and rehabilitation centers and the CCRCs and the independent communities that exist out there in our industry. So at the end, be courteous. Stay late. Take a tour. Learn about them. Like when you learn about it, this is how you make power partners anyway. Power partners is probably my biggest claim to fame. That's why I teach people how to make power partners. But this is a great way to do it. So stay around at the end to make sure that you're available to do the tours and continue to learn about the people who are hosting the event. It's a great way to get business after the fact. Remember, you don't get it right here. You get it with what you do after the event. So those are just some general house rules to go over ahead of time. Now, when you do your homework and you do your research, you should know if this event is worth your time, obviously. If it's an event and there's going to be 40, 50 plus people at the event, like I'll never forget, I went to this event down in Florida and there was like 150 professionals there. Well, I did my homework. I found out that this was going to be a hugely attended event, so I didn't just show up by myself. I showed up with the marketing person from the home care company I was with. I made sure that the executive director and the marketing community relations coordinators from the assisted living community that I was working out of while I was down there, they all attended. So there was 5, 6 of us from the companies that I was down there consulting and contracting with showed up at this big event that had 120 healthcare professionals. You covered more ground. So when we show up there, we dispersed, and that's what the next part is where you see no hanging out. I didn't show up with my team and the 5 of us sat together and the 5 of us talked to each other and we engaged and we had food and we listened and we did all that. We didn't do that. we dispersed. We went in the room. I saw them at the beginning. We walked around the entire property. Some of us went this way. Some of us went that way. We're sampling food. It was a big, huge event. It was a Top Chef event where there were 5 of the assisted living communities in the area had their executive chefs come in and do a competition on site. I believe it was at an Emeritus building, but don't quote me on that. And in the 4 different corners of the community is where each chef was stationed, and in the very center is where their chef was, and they went around, everybody sampled the food. I mean, it was an incredible event that I went to, and I loved it. And because we broke up and we divided and conquered, I ended up meeting like 10, 15 people. And you see the next one, meet at least 5 people face to face. But I met like 10, 15 people. And I got business cards, and I started to set up and qualify people, which I'll get to next. The other 4 or 5 people that came with me also did the same thing. So by the end of that event, there was 120 professionals there. We met a good 60 to 65 of those professionals and started to set up follow-up meetings and appointments and everything else, and that helped launch it. That put it on the map. That's how you really, really make an impression. And you know what's cool? When I meet somebody that one of the other team members had already met, they're like, oh, you're Steve. Oh, yeah, so-and-so told me about you. Or oh, wow, you guys, the whole team shows up. That impresses the rest of the group so that they're more inclined and more likely to want to work with you because they see that you're a team and there's more than just this one connection or contact. It makes your organization look more important at this event, and that's what leads to getting business. But make sure that you meet at least 5 people every time you go to any type of event. That's your goal. You go in, you got to have at least a 5-minute conversation with 5 different people. If you took time out of your day to go to this event, you have to do at least that. And it's not very difficult to do that. That's 25 minutes of the 2 to 3 hours total time that you're there. Now, you see how I mentioned avoid the time wasters? Yeah, we know the time wasters, that person that when you're standing there and you're talking to them and they just keep going on and on and on and on and you can't get a word in edgewise. You're like, oh my God, will you please shut up? No, I'm not going to refer you. No, I don't want to work with you, because if this is how you're treating me and this is the first time I'm meeting you, there is no way I'm going to send anybody to meet you either. So just avoid those people. And you know some of the people, like when you go to networking events regularly, you'll start to identify who the time wasters are. And like when you kind of walk into the room, you kind of duck when you see that person. Don't be that person, but avoid them as much as you can. If you ever get an opportunity where you're trapped by a time waster, a great way to get away from it is to turn around and bring another person into it and kind of give them the time waster. Not that I like to do that, but remember, you have a mission that you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to meet 5 people face to face that you haven't met before. You're trying to get connections and contacts and follow-ups. So if somebody's a time waster and you have to get away from them, do whatever you can. You may give them your 5 minutes, and at the end of the 5 minutes, be like, okay, well, thank you so much, Denise. I really appreciate you giving me this 5 minutes here. There's 50 other people here. I want to make my way around and meet as many people as possible, so you have a great day, okay? And that's just a nice, polite way to do it. Give them the 5 minutes, and that's it. But don't give them more than that. Time is money, and a time waster is exactly that, wasting your time, which means they're wasting your money. Now, the elevator pitch is something you all should know. At every networking event, and it's funny because even for myself, even here I am, the networking guru, I go to networking events, I still go to networking events all the time. I go to these events, and I still, to this day, whenever they go around the room and do the elevator pitch, I still get a little bit of butterflies in my stomach. Oh, no, they're coming to me. Oh, no, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? This is why you memorize your elevator pitch. So it's memorized. You know exactly what you're going to say, and here's a tip. Write it down. It should be 15 words or less besides your name. 15 words or less. So if you have time, you can repeat it so they can hear it twice, and that's it. And don't elaborate. Like, one of the things I can't stand about networking, and I'm sure you agree with me, when you go to an event and they do the elevator pitches and everybody goes around the room and introduces themselves, you get those 1 or 2 people who are like, and we are the assisted living community at blah, 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 and we have been around since 1997, and we have 95% occupancy, so if you know anybody who needs help, you please send them our way, and our director of nursing was born in 1971, and she is awesome, and our executive director was born in 1964, and he is amazing, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh my gosh, like this is not the time or the place for that. So people don't like those individuals. So you want to make sure that you have it scripted, you say what you have to say, no one's really going to remember it anyway, and so it's just a technicality or formality. Now when people are doing their elevator pitch though, try your hardest to pay attention to the people who are in the room. So, and I go back to the case study that I'll talk about later on when I was in Florida, but when I went down there, I remember I went to a networking event and a community event where there was a bunch of social workers. And I had already created, before I went, I did my homework, my research. What are the accounts in the area that have the highest likelihood of being able to refer me patients for either the assisted living that I was working with or the home care company that I was working with, because it was the same company. So I identified the accounts that had the potential to refer me, and every time I went to an event and they did the elevator pitches, lo and behold, there were at least 3 or 4 people who worked at the accounts that I'm trying to get into. So that was my connection, that was my contact, that was my foot in the door. So I love when they do the elevator pitches, even though you get those people who do the monologue or the soliloquy like they're in a Shakespearean play. You get through those folks, and you hear the names of the people that you really need to see. As soon as it breaks and it goes back to networking opportunity, run, seek those individuals out, have your 5 minutes, and then you bam, fam, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then finally, the last part where you see in capital letters here is shut up, right? What does that mean? It means that when people are doing the elevator pitch, this is why your cell phone's on silent. Don't talk to each other. Don't talk to people that are there. Be considerate. If you're at a CEU event and there's a professor or a doctor or a nurse or someone else speaking, pay attention. And I know this sounds obvious. Like you're probably saying, oh, this is obvious. But you'd be surprised if you go to these events as often as I do or as often as I have over the years. You'd be surprised at almost every single event. There's always 1 or 2 people just chit-chatting it up. And that's just disrespectful. I mean, I'm a professional speaker. I speak 25, 30 times a year at conferences and conventions, and it does throw you off when you're in the front of the room if you don't know how to handle that. And many of these folks at the local level who aren't speaking at stages and conferences, it throws them off. So it's inconsiderate to the speaker. It's inconsiderate to the rest of the people who are paying attention. Don't be that person, because what ends up happening is, again, if you are that person, you get the bad reputation. Your actions speak far louder than your words. So make sure that you're considerate, pay attention, have your phone off, don't be talking when you're not supposed to, but instead network when you're supposed to network and it's free time, but pay attention and participate in whatever you're there for. And if you need, like if your phone rings, simply answer it, get up, and walk out of the room. There's nothing wrong with that. That's professional courtesy, and that's the way it should be. So that's the etiquette when we go to events and what we want to do. So now the next part of this is really qualifying. And with qualifying, it comes down to qualifying the individuals that we're speaking. Because remember, I talked about that whole 5 minutes, right? So one of the things that you want to develop before you go into it, you can practice this with your office staff, you can practice this with your community, you can practice it with your residents, whatever it is. As soon as you go up to somebody and you introduce them and you shake that person's hand, imagine you just pressed a stopwatch and you just press start on that stopwatch. That is that mental clock going. And by the way, this photo here, I love this photo. That's my buddy Janine. We were at a Halloween party at her skilled nursing facility, Care One in East Brunswick, and obviously she was a banana, and I was Superman, and we had a lot of fun. And Janine's another marketing person who I met at a networking event, developed a relationship, and that one building referred me millions of dollars in private pay clients over my 8 or so years in healthcare as a direct marketing representative and business owner of a home care company. So, you know, that's why we network. This is why we do it. At one point in time, I qualified Janine as I'm showing you how to do this now. So what does fire hosing mean? Fire hosing means when we see someone, and I know this mindset that we have when we go to these networking events. Janine, for example, like I said, She's the marketing admissions person at a building that I know has a lot of potential to refer me patients on a regular, consistent basis. They have 600, 700 patients a year come through their doors, so I know that they could refer me almost every week. So obviously I want to see her. But because I want to see her, I don't want to be, remember at the beginning I talked about the lion or the panther or whatever that scares off the prey? I don't want to be that hunter. So as a result, I'm not going to go up to Janine and be like, hi, Janine. Oh, I am Steve. I am from Care Choice Home Care Company, and boy, am I glad to see you. We are the best home care company in the area. We've been in business since 2001. We're taking care of over 100 people on our census. We have 200 caregivers to choose from. We have the best rates. Our nurses are wonderful, and blah, 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 blah. That's fire hosing. What I just did, that example I just gave you, that's as if I opened my mouth and there was just water shooting out of my mouth at Janine, and she would be totally turned off by that, and there's no chance. She was like the prey, just ran away, and there's no chance for me ever to make a kill, because even though, you know, you can sometimes rebound from a first impression, but what's the saying? A first impression is the lasting one, right? And so you want to make sure you put your best foot forward. So instead of fire hosing, and I know, and I understand, believe me, folks, I understand. When you meet that key contact from the hospital, or that key contact from the rehab center, to wherever you're trying to get that business from, or even that potential client at a health fair, and they need help right now or whatever, our natural tendency is to go sales mode, but we have to be patient and make the move at the right time so we don't scare off our prey. So instead of fire hosing, practice active listening. Practice active listening. You ever hear the saying, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason? You should speak half as much as you listen. That is great advice. Use that advice when we're at these situations. Now, how do we actively listen? Instead of fire hosing Janine, this is what I did, and this is how I do with everybody. This is what I teach people how to do. I shake my hand with Janine, and I say, hi, I'm Steve. I'm from Care Choice. What's your name? And she says, I'm Janine. I say, hi, Janine, nice to meet you. And she's like, nice to meet you, too. And then I say, what do you do, Janine? Now, we just did the elevator pitch. I know she works at Care One. I know she's the marketing person because she said it. I paid attention. But let her tell me. So she says, oh, I work at Care One. I'm an admissions marketing person. I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. I've never been to Care One before. I'd love to come by someday. And she responds, oh, you should definitely come by. Well, I'll give you a tour. No problem. Wonderful. How long have you been doing that? Oh, I've been doing it for the last 10 years. Wow, that's a long time. So have you always been in the healthcare industry, or is this your first job? And she's like, oh, you're so funny. Yes, this is my first job, whatever. And then next thing you know, we start schmoozing. I start finding out more about the building. I find out how long she's been there, what she'd do before. I later find out that she's married and she's got kids and all this other great stuff. That's active listening. And if you notice the way that I did it in that example there, and this is, and you can do this too, all it really is small talk, but it's getting familiar with someone. And I'm asking her questions. I'm kind of controlling the conversation the way I want the conversation to go, so that I'm keeping her at ease. I'm getting her to open up and talk. And when people open up and talk and communicate, they feel more comfortable with you. So there's a higher likelihood that she would want to see me again, and I can follow up and then work on getting the business, which is the key, right? Even if it was a prospective client, the same exact thing. How can I help you is what we say, not this is what we can do. That's fire hosing. Fire hosing, this is what we can do. Active listening, how can I help you? Now, at the end of this 5 minutes, because remember I said you're going to have that 5-minute mental clock, if the conversation is going south, meaning there's no need to see this person again, or if you're talking to a prospect, they do not really need your services, and you're kind of wasting your time, at the 5-minute mark, you simply end the conversation and you sever the connection real simply by saying, okay, you know what, Janine, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You're an awesome person. As you can see, there's 30, 40 other people here. And out of all these 30, 40 other people, I haven't had a chance to really meet many people yet, so I want to just make my way around the room. So here's my card, and I give her my card, and then she gives me hers, and I say, we'll be in touch if I ever see an opportunity for us to work together. That's it. It's real simple. It's real easy. There's nothing wrong with it. She doesn't know that I'm not going to call her and follow up with her. I didn't ruffle any feathers. I didn't do anything wrong at all. But now I can get away and move on to the next person. Now, on the flip side, this is the positive. This is where the business is gained, right? If Janine is the person, which obviously in the photo there she was, then what do? I bam fam, BMFM, bam fam. This is one of the core values of those who work with me at Hurricane Marketing Enterprises. Book a meeting from a meeting. Book a meeting from a meeting. At the boot camps, I talk about it. I train. It has to become second nature. What do I mean by book a meeting from a meeting? Well, it's very simple. This is the 21st century, folks. And I say this because half of us listening keep a calendar on our phone, but the other half don't. Get a calendar. Keep it on the phone. I had a video last week talking about time management and using your calendar to your advantage and putting everything on your calendar so you can be as productive as possible during your working hours. And then when you're off the clock, still keep a calendar for personal things so that you can enjoy your life the way that you should. That's the true work-life freedom, the true work-life balance that we all wish to have. So keep a calendar on your phone. And what I say at the end is, Gene, this is fantastic. We've been speaking about 5-6 minutes now, and there's, a good 30, 40 people here, and I want to make my way around the room, but I'll tell you what, I really, really like where this conversation is going, and I would love to come and tour and learn more about Care One and see if there's some synergy on how we can work together, do some things that can help grow your business and mine at the same time. Now, notice the way I said that. Collaboration, do some things that can help grow your business and mine at the same time. I'll use that as a segue to the next slide. I'll come back to that. But when I say it to Janine, she's like, that sounds awesome. That's exciting because the conversation went well. And she understands there's other people here that I want to see, so it makes sense. So then I pull out my cell phone, and I just simply say, Janine, what are you doing? And as I pull out my cell phone, I go right to my calendar. I'm actually doing this right now. I'm looking at my calendar. Tomorrow is busy as hell, so it's next Monday and Tuesday. But next Wednesday and Thursday, I have some openings. So that's exactly what I would do. And I would say, Janine, next Wednesday, I have something in the morning from 9 until 2, but I'm available at 3 o'clock, 3:30, the end of the day. Would it be okay if I came by at the end of the day, the last tour, you showed me around, we could talk further about what we're discussing here. Maybe we can talk about a possible collaboration of some type. Would that be okay for next Wednesday? And what does she do? She opens up her cell phone or her planner. She sees if she's available. And if she isn't, then what she'll say is, well, I got to get back to the office and I'll let you know. I said, okay, what's your email address? And this is where that big, expensive data plan that we all have with our Verizon Wireless or whatever carrier you have comes into play. I send her a calendar invite right there on the spot before I leave, before I stop talking to her, so that she knows that I'm going to come next week on Wednesday around 3 o'clock, 3:30. So that this way we're all set to go. It's in there. And in the event that she has to cancel or she's not able to make it, she has to follow up with me versus me trying to hunt her down and call her and email her after the fact. That's why we do it here, because we've all been to events. And we always talk to people in best laid plans of mice and men, right? That's the saying. So the best laid plan is we all have great intentions of following up later on, but then when we follow up, what happens? She's busy, she's got a meeting, she got yelled at because the census is down or whatever it is, something happens, and my follow-up, which would be next week with Janine, ends up happening 2 months later when I see her at another event and she apologizes up and down because she hasn't talked to me. And in that 2 months, did I get any business from Janine? No. Did I develop the relationship any further with Janine? No. I wasted 2 months' time because I didn't take the initiative right there on the spot when I had her and have the courage to ask for the follow-up on the spot. That's why we book a meeting from a meeting. That's probably the most important thing that you will take away from this part of it when you're speaking to somebody one-on-one. If you want to develop relationships quickly, if you want to get referrals quickly, if you want to close a client faster, don't make another step to contact them after seeing them now, because that extra step is going to put off when you're going to actually see them to convert them later on. Make the appointment right here, right now, no time like the present. Early bird gets the worm. That's you. That's going to grow the business, and that's where the business is gained. It's gained during the follow-up. It's not gained at the meeting. It's gained at what you do after the meeting at that one-on-one meeting. Now, I could talk forever and a day about this, because this is like the most basic surface start of the whole power partners and everything else or whatever. I don't have time for that, but I do want to get into, because one of the things that the pre-registered people ask is, how do I do my own events? And so I want to wrap up with that before I talk about, other things in boot camp and working with us and so on and so forth. So you got to find a host. That's the first thing you got to do when you want to start your own event. And I do like starting my own events, because when you're the person who's organizing it, you control everything. You make it a controlled environment. So imagine, again, you're the hunter, you're the mountain lion, you're the panther or whatever. If you're the panther, imagine if you had a forest that you set up and the prey comes into the forest, you're going to make a lot of kills that day, right? So that's why I like starting my own. So first, find a place that's going to host it. Now, I know there are a lot of communities on the webinar here today. That's fantastic. You already have a place to host it. Great. So you got that covered. For those of you who aren't a community, go to a community like one of the people listening here and ask them if they'd like to collaborate on hosting the event. Make sure the place has enough space, enough parking. I know a lot of assisted living communities. It's a weird thing. I used to go to a lot of assisted living communities. I still do. And for whatever reason, they have just enough parking spots for the people that work there and like 3 other people. So if you're going to do a big event, make sure that they have adequate parking or some kind of process set up for the parking. Like when I talked about that whole Top Chef event with 120 people, they ended up doing a valet parking, and they had valets parking off-site. So that's how they make it work. So there's ways to do it, but again, these are little things that you got to do when you're selecting who you're going to have to host your event. Choose a topic of some type. You got to have some reason for people to come. So if it's something that you're doing direct to consumers, something I used to do with a high success rate were these health education forums. So I would have assisted living, independent living, skilled nursing, hospice, home health. I represented the home care. We even had hospital representatives come, and we were the speakers on a panel, and we would talk about the differences between Medicare and Medicaid, what does it cover at our level of care and everything, and we would do this at senior centers or 55-plus independent living communities as this vendor fair or this health fair. And the seniors showed up in droves, and they loved it, and they learned a lot about it. And you always preface it. If you ever, I know I'm going a little off topic here, but I'll try and keep it in the time as close as I can. Whenever you do an event for the seniors themselves, and you have some kind of speaker or something of this nature, and you obviously want business. Obviously, we want business. Like, I get it, folks. Right? Remember I talked about the whole lion? I want to make the kill, but I don't want to scare this person away. When somebody comes to our table, when somebody comes to our booth, what you always want to preface is, hey, can I ask you 2 quick questions? Question number 1, if you're on stage, by a show of hands, raise your hand right now if you know someone who would love to be here at this event today, but they can't because they're stuck in their home. Or if I'm talking to a person one-on-one, do you know someone who would like to be here who can't because they're stuck in their home? And almost always, they're all going to raise their hands. They're all going to say, yes, I do know somebody, because birds of a feather flock together. Seniors hang out with seniors, right? So that's, okay, second question I have for you, by a show of hands or one-on-one, do you know someone who is currently in the hospital or has been in the hospital in the last month? Raise your hand, or yes or no. And everybody, again, raises their hand, or they say, yes, I do. And I say, okay, great. What we do at our home care, at our assisted living, at our whatever, this is for that person right now. So when I'm talking to you, you're here. You clearly don't need me. So don't come from the place of, one day you may need us, all right? Because they look at us like we're the Grim Reaper when we do that, okay? So don't do that. Instead, make sure that they understand that if they have a friend or a loved one who's in those situations, and we all know it, that's the person who needs me, and they need me now. What ends up happening is the senior themselves will stand up and pay attention, or if they're at a meeting, they will take out a notebook and a pen and they will write down everything that is being discussed. And after the event is over, or one-on-one at your table, they will start talking about their friend or their loved one who needs the help, and that's when you get your prospect. Right then and there on the spot. That's when you can take that prospect, you can book a meeting from a meeting for an appointment to go visit their friend or visit their loved one with the person that you're talking to right now. Get that loved one on the phone. Let's call that person right now. Let's schedule an appointment right now. Book a meeting from a meeting right here, right then and there to get with that person, and then boom, you close it after the event. Follow-up is where the business is gained. So always remember that. But again, if you're doing something for professionals, have a topic, something that's interesting, somebody who can speak, because you want to draw people to it. If you can offer credits, great. That's a better way to do things. After you do that, the next thing, let's see, where's my mouse? Come on, clicker. Don't fail me now. Okay, clicker's not wanting to work here, so the old-fashioned way. Create a member list. So you create a member list. I don't know what happened there too. You create a member list, and whatever that member list is the people who are attending it. It's very simple, real easy. Or if you want to do like a networking event that's going to meet on a regular, consistent basis, that's your member list. But obviously you want to get an RSVP count. The logistics that go involved with the meetings are obviously space, but then what's the flow of it? So I typically have an event for around 2 to 2.5 hours. The first hour is usually arrivals, some kind of a meal, open networking where the arrivals get to meet with one another. When it comes to time for events, I will say, although I like going to after-hour events for a purpose, for a better, more accurate head count, your best bet is morning time frame with like an 8 o'clock start, which I know it stinks for 8 o'clock, but let me tell you, the people who can't network and the people who can't go to things because their boss won't let them, they will always show up at the 8 o'clock events. They'll be there from 8 until 8:15, and then they leave and they go to work. So if you want to meet connections and contacts, have it start at 8 o'clock in the morning. The other reason why I like doing my events and my activities early in the morning is because if you get 30 RSVPs, you're going to have like 25 to 30 people show up. If you do it after hours, although it's still good, if you get 30 RSVPs, you're probably going to get like 15 to 20 show up because that 10 to 15 are going to want to go. They had every intention of going, but the circumstances of the day that happen to all of us that come up cause people to no show even though they committed to it. And when you're providing a meal, you're providing food, it ends up being very costly, and you end up throwing away a lot of food, and it's not fair to your host because usually the host is the one providing the meal. So just keep that in mind as you go about doing the things that you're doing, but always remember that. Now, after that first hour, then you want to get everybody's attention. You go together. You can do your elevator pitches and introductions. At the end of your elevator pitch and your introductions, give a special like 5-minute overview to the person who hosted it. Get your attendees, give them applause, blah, blah, blah. Thank you so much for hosting it. Mr. So-and-so from Sunrise, tell us about your Sunrise community or whatever community it is that the person's speaking to. And then it's usually the executive director or the community relations coordinator, and they speak, blah, 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 blah. We're awesome. Afterwards, we are going to be available for tours. So we'd love to give you a tour, and thank you for coming, folks, or whatever. And then finally, you introduce your speaker, your activities person, your entertainment, whatever it is, so that people can do that. Give them a 25-minute to an hour window, depending on what it is. If it's a CEU event, obviously it's an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how long it's supposed to be. But give the full undivided attention, turn it over. One of the things I also like to do before I do that is also give people a chance to talk about any events or other things that are going on in the area that they want to publicize, as well as is anybody hiring, because we all know somebody out of work. So it's just a nice way to give back to the community, and it shows that you care. So when you do all of this, and I know I'm kind of like spitfiring this out there to you, but I hope you're able to write it down. Those are the logistics that go into running your own event. And then if you want to do a giveaway, you can. As part of the Power Partners that I train people on, I like when I get like a hospice company and a private home care company collaborating with an assisted living. So you're working together to do this CEU event. The hospice usually provides the speaker who gets the credits. The assisted living provides the space and the meal, and then the private home care company can do a raffle or a giveaway item or something of that nature within reason. Just keep in mind that there are, anti-kickback laws and all that other great stuff, so you got to be careful with what you give away and what the rules are in your state. The reason why I like to have the private home care company be the one to do that is because they don't have to apply or abide by the rules of Medicare like the home health or the hospices would, so that they could do a raffle or a giveaway or something of that nature. And then also to remember the way the law works as well. If you're going to do a raffle or a giveaway, there's usually like a $10 maximum, so you're allowed to give away something of a $10 value or less per person. So if you have 25 people and you wanted to give away something of a $100 value, that would work because only one person gets it, but it's a raffle of split amongst all the people in the room. So just some heads up. Make sure you're doing everything ethically the way you're supposed to. I don't want you to get in trouble. But giveaways, if you can, yes, it only further entices to get people to come to your event and your activity, which makes you shine. If it's something for the seniors, obviously having giveaways, the seniors show up like locusts and they just clean your table and they take all of your stuff, and I don't know what they do with it, but they take it all. So just be prepared to be attacked when you go to an event for your seniors directly. And then obviously those special types of meetings, like you can have fun with your networking meetings. I used to do a Halloween party every year, obviously, as you saw, and everybody dressed up in costume, and we gave away prizes for the best costume, the scariest costume, and the most original costume. We would do special networking boot camps where we would come up with specific questions and challenges that we all face as professionals in the healthcare industry, and we would kind of get together, break up into teams, answer the questions, come back and share it with the whole group. So they were a lot of fun. We did speed networking events, kind of like the speed dating concept, where the people on the outside of the circle stayed where they are. The people on the inside of the circle used to move every 5 minutes. We'd ring a bell, and everyone would get up and go to the next person. So you'd meet 25, 30 people in an hour or 2 hours meeting. So there's a lot of different things you can do. Don't be afraid to be creative. We used to do a holiday winter wonderland theme, and we would do Pirate Pollyanna at the holiday season, so people would bring a gift of up to $15 value, and everyone would pull a number out. When your number came up, you could either go take a gift off the table, or you could steal someone else's gifts. It's kind of like, Secret Santa on steroids, so it was a lot of fun. But again, these were things that people liked. These were things that people showed up to, and I'm the one organizing it. If you're the one organizing it, you control all the cards. If you want to get into other communities, if you want to get into skilled nursing facilities, you want to get into hospitals, coming in saying, hey, would you like to host my meeting? Would you like to do an event together? Let's do this. It's a great way to do it, because when you do a collaboration, you're actually helping them, like you're trying to help the person you're trying to get business from. You're trying to help them get business, which is a better way to go in and ask for referrals than to just go in and say, hey, can you refer me? They're going to refer their partners. This is how you be their partner, do these kind of things, and you'll help grow your organization, you'll grow your business. So that's how you leverage to get into those closed accounts. So our case studies here, you see this event. This was an event that I was the master of ceremonies for, the Society on Aging of New Jersey event. But the CEU event that I'll talk about was when I was down in Florida at that assisted living community, and we did a time management presentation, but it was from a famous doctor in the area who was affiliated with Vitas Hospice. And Vitas Hospice was my power partner, and we had it at the assisted living that I was working with while I was down there, and the home care division that was part of that assisted living that I was working with, they brought in an iPad. So the iPad was raffled off. This was the first week of December, so everybody who showed up was like, I hope I get that iPad so I can give it to my kid or use it or whatever, give it away as a gift. But the iPad cost like $350. And so we got an iPad too, and people showed up. I think we had like 23 RSVPs. It was at 8 o'clock in the morning start. The assisted living provided a beautiful breakfast with omelet stations and Belgian waffles and all of that good stuff. Vitas, just like I said, they had the doctor come in and speak, and everybody wanted to meet this doctor. And then out of the 23 or so RSVPs, like 19 to 20 people showed up, so the majority of the people who RSVP'd showed up. somebody won an iPad. It happened to be a social worker who worked at a 5-star skilled nursing facility in the area. And I'll tell you, that social worker loved me, and she loved that home care company that got her that iPad, and she was very glad, and she welcomed us every time we went in there afterwards, and she referred us. So it was worth it. The second example is Monroe, New Jersey, the Senior Connections meetings. I mean, I was talking about that with the Halloween parties and everything, so I'm not going to spend a lot more time on it. But again, that's in the New Jersey market. It works over there with the networking groups. And then the Bakersfield, California was actually one of my very first clients back in 2012. He went to a health fair, and it was sponsored by a hospital. And so I had prepped my client ahead of time. When you're going in there, these are the key contacts that you want to meet from the hospital, because they're the ones organizing it. Don't try to get the business. Don't try to get anything today from them, because they're running a health fair. So you're not going to get any business from them. Don't waste their time. Be polite, cordial, do what you got to do. Book a meeting from a meeting to come back later on in the week or next week, which he did to eventually get into this hospital. And when you meet with the prospective clients, come from the place of who are you here visiting, what's the situation, how can I help you versus this is what we do. And he ended up getting several prospects, and he converted almost all of them from being at the health fair and doing the things that I discussed with you earlier on. So this works obviously in Florida and California, which I'm going to tell you right now, folks, California and Florida are the two hardest states in the country, and it's California is the harder of the two because of the regulation and the compliance and all the things that are going out there. It's truly the Wild West. But Florida and California are two of the most difficult states to market in, and it works in those states. It works right here in my home state, the Garden State, good old New Jersey. It works in New York. It works I have clients in 50 states. I have clients in Canada doing this. And just today, my staff had to do a call this morning at 9 a.m. on the dot with somebody at 9 p.m. in Sydney, Australia, who's signing up with us to do the same exact thing. This works when you work it. Yes, you got to put the time. Yes, you got to put forth the effort, but it truly, truly works. And lastly, you can see over here, waiting is a trap. There will always be reasons to wait. But the truth is, there are only two things in life, reasons and results. And reasons simply don't count. So when you have this, you learn this. This is good. This is powerful. If you do this, you will get business. If you sit down and, well, I can't, I don't know how, it's just good information, but I can't do that, I'm not going to do that, guess what? You have a whole bunch of reasons, and your business will suffer because of it. But if you say, Steve, I'm with you, this is awesome, I'm ready, set to go, I've been going out there for a while, I'm going to take some of the things you talked about, tweak my attitude, tweak my effort, and concentrate on this, boom, I promise you, before long, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, you're going to be getting referrals, you're going to be growing your census, you're going to grow your revenues, and you are going to grow your profits. That's what we do. That's what I do. I help people blow away the competition. Go out there, dominate, and blow away the competition in your market. Can I talk about the boot camp, Denise?
Yeah, we're already over time, but if you can quickly cover it, that'd be great.
Yeah, I know I went a little bit over, everybody. I'm a chatter here, as obviously you can see. But I just want to let you know, if you want to come to the boot camp is where it's at. As you heard at the beginning when Denise did my wonderful introduction, and I appreciate that we sell these boot camps out all the time. We already have over 100 people coming to it, and space is limited. If you want to come to the boot camp, I'm going to go over specifically how to convert more clients from your inquiries. I'm going to talk about the marketing efforts that we have to do and put forth. I even have a social worker training video where I interviewed social workers on why they refer who they do, what are the things that they need to know, how do they like to be approached, what you should do if you're a brand new company coming to them, and so many other things. That training in itself is worth the price of admission. It's incredible. When you have 200 to 250 entrepreneurs in the healthcare industry from all across the country and internationally, the discussion, the networking. It's like a family event. You will leave fired up, motivated, and educated and ready to go out there and blow away the competition. You see the website right there, homecaremarketing.net/Hurricane Bootcamp. And even though it's home care, it's not just specific to home care. It's for anybody who wants to get business from hospitals, rehab, skilled nursing facilities, LTECs, and the liking. So I look forward to seeing you in Denver, July 26th and 28th. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much for your time. God bless each and every one of you, and keep doing what you're doing to help our seniors age in place with dignity and grace. Thank you.
Wow, thanks for all that excellent info, Steve. As I did mention, we have gone over our time. I really appreciate all of you that have stuck around. We have a few questions. Let me just pull those up. And now, for those of you who are still able to stick around, in your upper right, you can ask questions. The common question I mentioned at the beginning is yes, these slides and recording will be available afterward. There was a question, Steve, if you could speak briefly about how to cost-effectively promote your event. What's the most cost-effective way to get the word out about the event?
There's two ways you can do it. One is through email newsletter blasts, and the second is through good old-fashioned pounding the pavement. So you print out a flyer, you make a flyer for your event, and then you go out to all the places that you're trying to get business from. It gives you a reason to show up besides saying, hey, you have a referral for me. You can actually go in and say, hey, I want to invite you to the event that I'm having, talk a little about the event, and then ask them, hey, do you have a referral for me at the same time while I'm here? So get out there, grassroots marketing, promote your event, and get people to show up for it.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions? There was another question early on in the session about overcoming challenges for getting seniors to attend, but I think that was more focused on the consumer-oriented events, and you did talk about the parking and valet to it. Another question that...
the only thing I would add for seniors is just have giveaways. So for seniors, definitely have giveaways or feed people, and if you give them food, they will come.
Great. And then a question about how you would differentiate or clarify the difference between a community event and a networking event.
Networking event is specifically for the purpose of networking and making connections and contact. A community event could be something where there's a different purpose of it or a theme to it, like a wine and cheese tasting or a dine and dash. A lot of assisted living communities do a dine and dash because the number one complaint, or one of the biggest complaints out there, is that the food is terrible in these homes. And I don't like the food, I don't like the food. So a lot of times they'll do a come in, tour the building, order, the chicken or the salmon or the steak or the salmon or something of that nature. When you first get here, we'll prepare it, and then when you leave, you take the food and you go home and you eat the food to sample the food. That's a dine and dash. So a lot of places do those type of events. That is an example of a community event. So networking is straight for networking purposes. Community events are the other type of events that you can go to within our industry.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm really sorry. We'll have to follow up on the rest of the questions later. We're starting to lose folks, and I just want to make sure we have time to summarize the key points and let you know about the next event. So the key takeaways we have are that events are a valuable marketing tool, but you need to be selective. Remember, Steve said the one thing he wanted you to take away is be selective. And he gave you ways to do this, but have a plan and strategy for the events you choose for your marketing. Be sure to manage your expectations. That post-event follow-up Steve talked about is what drives the bottom line outcomes. And the key takeaway is, done right, these events build your professional referral relationships and can positively impact your bottom line, as Steve gave numerous examples of how he has used events to do so. Okay. I'm sorry, did you want to add something?
No, I said amen.
Oh, great. All right, so the next Digital Marketing Academy webcast is for those of you who are partnered with Caring.com, and those of you, whether you're new or you've been with us for a while. We're going to cover the ways that you can make the most of that partnership and drive the most ROI from you. We got a question about where you can find the slides and recording of this webinar afterward. It's the same place that you can sign up for this webinar. It is on our blog, our industry blog, http://partners.caring.com. You click the events tab. It's got the upcoming events on the webinar archive, and we will be sending you that information via email after this session. I just want to repeat what Steve said, and that is to thank everyone very much for attending our session today, especially those of you who stayed longer than normal. And we hope that you found this information helpful. We'd love to hear your feedback. We're really big on that. So here's my contact information to get in touch with me. But immediately after this webinar, you're going to be prompted to take a quick survey. There's 5 questions. Please do take that. We want to hear what works in this webinar, what you think that we can do to improve, and whether or not you'd like to get in touch with us to collaborate and discuss further. There will also be a link in the email you received. So thank you very much. Thank you, Steve, to our excellent speaker, and Hurricane Marketing Enterprises for collaborating with Caring.com. That ends our session for today. Have a great day, everybody.